and I demand protection from my embassy.
Involvement in a domestic dispute
I'll do everything in my power to make sure that you're safe.
could have international reverberations.
This is no less than kidnapping by a foreign government.
If the press get hold of this...
It's never a good idea to let the press dictate policy, is it?
He's my son! Let me have my son!
This situation is threatening to escalate beyond our control.
The Ambassador, Sunday, 9 o'clock on BBC1.
Set sail on a maiden voyage with a brand new documentary series.
So we're off to warmer climates, bright sunshine, suntans, naked bodies, things like that. Looking forward to it.
But life's not all a cabaret aboard the cruise ship Galaxy. Betting everything on the weather and sharing the hopes and dreams of the crew.
Now they're giving me a big chance to be top of the bill.
Steady on 1, 4, 5.
All at sea, twice weekly, in the cruise, begins Tuesday at 8 on BBC1.
Charlton Heston and Ava Gardner might as well lie low. Disasters on the way. The earthquake tremors start in 50 minutes. The Master returns first. Parkinson's, the talk of BBC1.
Thank you. Now, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, all you need for a talk show are 3 guests with an interesting tale to tell, one of whom can do a turn, and that's what we've got tonight. In fact, my 3 guests define different aspects of performing talent. There's the actor from the Welsh Valleys who conquered Hollywood. He is Sir Anthony Hopkins. And then there's the entertainer who grew up in a Brooklyn tenement, and it doesn't get much more tenement than that to become a great entertainer. Once described as the king of commercial music, he is Barry Manilow. But first, a comedian with an imagination both weird and wonderful. He's employed in stand-up and on television, particularly in BBC2's Have I Got News For You, where his fantastic flights take him into a strange world where polar bears ransack greenhouses in search of tomatoes and politicians turn into tubs of lard. His colleague on the show, Ian Hislop, once described him as, and I quote, a dangerous alien from the planet Stroppy. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Merton. Planet Stroppy.
Yes.
Were you always stroppy?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure what stroppy means, really.
It means awkward. It means, yeah.
It's sort of got it's got a connotation. You wouldn't call Jonathan Aitken stroppy, would you? It's sort of like a yobbish kind of thing, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't know. Ian's a very nice man. Unlike most people, he knows what it is to lose a quiz show week in and week out for the last 8 years. So, whatever he says, I'm quite happy to take with a pinch of salt.
Look, reading about you, I mean, I can see actually what he means. I mean, on the show, you project this spiky persona. And as a child, I mean, you were a curious child, weren't you? But you were. I mean,
I don't remember seeing you when I was a young boy. You were the one observing me through next door's window.
It's called research, Paul, actually. I mean, how old were you, for instance, when you decided that you wanted to be famous?
Well, not famous. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a comedian. That was a very early age. I was about 3 or 4 years old, which is, I admit, is very bizarre. And it wasn't so much the fame thing. I just wanted to get involved in comedy because I went to a circus once and I saw clowns falling over, and I hadn't seen adults behave like that before, and I thought this was wonderful. Adults should have great big shoes and ginger waistcoats and hair that went up at the side and threw buckets of whitewash over each other, and nobody told them off. They were allowed to do this. And I thought that was wonderful. So it wasn't necessarily the fame thing. That was what I wanted to do, and if I was successful at it, then I thought, well, then the fame thing will come along as a consequence.
So what do you do to become successful? You learn how to tell jokes? Did you?
I was a funny boy at school. I was I was one of the people at the back of the classroom who used to make other kids laugh, you know, and I would collect jokes from the Beano and the Dandy before I made up my own jokes. What's yellow and white and goes 105 miles an hour?
I don't know. What is yellow and white and goes 105 miles an hour?
Well, I don't know. I thought you might know. You said you did all the research. I mean, I thought you might know. But the true answer is a railway driver's egg sandwich. Which, you know, so you tell this joke at the age of railway driver's egg sandwich, and you tell this joke, you know, when you're 7, and that was amusing, you know. But then as I got older, I started to make up my own jokes, and I used to write essays at school, English essays, and I used to love that as well. So you'd get into compositions where you could invent various stories, you know.
Were you encouraged at school by your teachers? Because you were brought up by taught by nuns and Jesuit priests.
Yes, a mixture of nuns at first, yes. There was one nun. It was a bit unfortunate, really. When I was about 8 years old, we came back from the summer holidays, and the essay we had to write at school was what I did during the summer holidays. So I'd gone to Great Yarmouth with the family. I was only 8. It seemed sensible to go with them rather than go with somebody else. They seemed to know what, you know. They asked me if I wanted to go. I said fine. I had no money, no source of income. They'd got the tickets. It seemed to make sense to go with them, so I did. And so I started writing this thing, and we went to Great Yarmouth. It was very nice. The beach was very sandy. A spaceship landed. I got on the spaceship, and we went to the moon. And I started writing like this, because I didn't want to just write about sandcastles and stuff. And she got really annoyed about this nun. She said, well, you can't write that. That's not true. It didn't happen. And I thought, this is rich coming from a nun, you know, like... you know, the Garden of Eden. So this snake says to Eve, don't eat the apple. That happened. But a spaceship landed in Great Yarmouth, that didn't happen, you know. I think she maybe thought I was trying to start up a rival religion.
But did it put you off, this?
Well, it was annoying, because I felt very, you know, when you're young and a teacher tells you you've done something wrong, and it doesn't feel wrong, and you wonder why she's saying it's wrong. So she read this essay out, and, you know, as an example to the rest of the class of the sort of thing not to write. And the following week, all the other kids thought, well, we can write about spaceships. It can be anything. So instead of like a day in the life of a supermarket or the inside of a ping pong ball, we can write about anything. So she made me stand up and humiliated me in front of the class by saying, this is all your fault. I mean, she was really angry about it. But in a sense, it gives you something to kick against, I suppose, because I knew it was okay to write about spaceships. I knew there was nothing wrong with that.
But I mean, going back to this stroppy theme, I mean, were you a strange child to deal with? I mean, you know, I mean, it shows an imagination, imagining the spaceship landed, you went to the moon, but on the other hand, it's a bit weird.
Is it?
Well, you've made a living out of it since, so it's not that weird. But
I mean, I don't know. It didn't seem odd to me.
No.
I mean, I have a sister, Angela, who's younger than me by about 6 years. So for the first few years of my life, I was an only child, and it seemed to be perfectly natural to make up stories.
You're in this lonely, invented world.
Yes, you know, you sort of, I mean, a couple of friends and stuff, but I quite enjoy just making up stories, or you turn your fingers into characters or things, you know, or just...
You talk to your hand?
I was a child, Michael. Listen.
I'm trying to get deep into your character.
This isn't something I did last week. So yes, I would. So it would be yes, and anything that was imagination, really.
But I mean, again, on this theme, I mean, it seemed throughout school that you were in conflict with either the priests or the nuns, and also to your own classmates at one point. So sixth form college, you were sent to Coventry, weren't you?
Oh yes, I was actually. I hope they're watching. I think this means I win, doesn't it? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And the trouble is, I don't know why they sent me to Coventry.
Why?
Well, you don't know because they're not speaking to you. So you never find out. I really don't know what it was. I've met a couple of them since then, and it's been fine. But it was actually, well, it's a terrible thing to happen to anybody, and particularly at the age of 16 or so. You're very You know, you can be, what's the word, you're very vulnerable, and it was a terrible thing at the time. It was awfully lonely.
Yes. Well, what about you in your performing career? It's interesting. You had this ambition to become a comedian, and yet what you went and did, of course, you went to RADA.
Oh no, I went for an audition. I went for an audition.
But why did you audition at RADA?
Well, simply because I was at the age of 19. Now, if you don't know anybody who's in show business, to say you want to be a comedian is as daft a thing to say as you want to be an astronaut or you want to be a squid. It's a very, you know, a baby squid can say it wants to be a squid, but for somebody else it's a daft ambition. I'm getting there. I've got 2 hands, another 6, and I'll be there. But so what I thought was, well, the thing with RADA is I heard that you could go to an audition, and what I wanted to do was find out just what it would be like standing on a stage, because I read that you go along, you stand on a stage, there's about 4 or 5 people in front, they judge you, you know, I did a piece from Richard III, and...
You didn't do the famous speech.
Oh, of course I did, it was terrible.
You didn't do the back.
Oh, well, no, I didn't do the back. I might have done a slight limp, just to show that I knew what I was doing. But it was, you know, I did the Now is the Winter of Our Discontent thing, and I had no ambition of getting into RADA, but what it proved to me was, as I stood on that stage, I wasn't scared of it, I wasn't frightened of it, I felt, no, this feels at home. When I do get to do what I want to do, at least I've had this little bit of experience, because it was like an exam, really, and you stand there, and I had no intention of going to RADA, nor would I have been, at that time, good enough to get in.
And yet, you see, here you are, you get to a situation where you know what you want to do, you achieve what you want to do, you do, have I got news for you, have I got news for you, not have I got news for you, whose line is it anyway, sorry. You, Edinburgh Fringe, the festival, you do stand-up, you work with Julian Clary, and then you get slightly derailed. You end up in the Moseley Hospital undergoing psychiatric treatment.
Yes.
Why was this?
It was a career move, basically. I thought this would make a very interesting chapter in an autobiography one day. Well, it was basically, it was a sort of manic episode. It wasn't a depression, it was the opposite, really. I was working on a show with Julian, Sticky Moments, that we'd worked on together. I was doing Whose Line, I was writing a series, first series for Channel 4, and it was everything that I'd wanted to happen was happening in the space of about 3 or 4 months. So through excitement, I was working like 18 hours a day writing, and if you're spending that much time just thinking, you know, eventually you overload. And I went on holiday to Kenya, and I took these anti-malarial pills, which have since, I can't remember the brand, but some of them have been associated with people who, you know, they can have a side effect on the brain. So it was all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it was quite harrowing at the time.
What was it like being there? I mean...
Well, you've got a choice of breakfast. It comes in a paper bowl, hard-boiled egg or bran flakes. So, you know, you'd sort of like Monday you could have the hard-boiled egg. Tuesday, if you were pushing it, you could have the hard-boiled egg, but then you stuck to bran flakes for the rest of the week. Those sort of life choices were available to you at a drop of a hat.
But you see, here you were, you're a celebrity, you're been on television, and here you were in a...
Yes, it was difficult, because Whose Line was being shown at that particular time, and the psychiatrist that I saw, I mean, this was the National Health Service, so you see a guy 10 minutes every 3 days, it's not particularly useful. And also, it's the worst place to go if you're not feeling particularly mentally well. There's a load of other people, because... why lump us all together, you know? There was some terrible... Anyway, this psychiatrist said to me, I said to him one day, I said, there's some other patients in the ward and the rest of the hospital who are bothering me a bit. And he said, well, why? And I said, well, they think they know me. And he said, oh, yes. And he said, why would that be? I said, well, because I'm on television. Oh, really? Because he didn't watch Channel 4 at all, you know. I said, yeah, every Friday. Every Friday. I had to get a tape in the end to show him that it wasn't a delusion. One patient came up to me in the canteen and said, are you Paul Merton? I said, shh, I'm not supposed to be here. And he left me alone, it was fine. I sort of chipped in with his conspiracy theory or whatever.
Did you make friends with?
Well, there were some people I got on well with there, you know. But the disturbing thing about it was that they had this system where the nurses and the doctors would be dressed just like the rest of the patients. They didn't have uniforms or name badges. And we had this sort of group therapy session every morning where people would sit around, and there'd be some terrible stories. You know, somebody over here is schizophrenic, and somebody over here has lost their house, and somebody over here has lost their family, all these kind of things. And I noticed that one particular woman in this group therapy thing was having a very bad time. She used to be in tears, and I found out after about 3 days that she was a staff nurse. I saw her in an office going through all these files. I mean, what sort of thing is that to do to a nutcase? Show them something like that, you know. It was very, very bizarre, but, you know, in the end you kind of get out of it. But it was, yes, it was a peculiar experience.
Did you gain it? It sounds a silly thing to say, but did you learn anything from it? Did it when you
yes, there was one thing, yes. I was, before I went in, I was trying to do 3 or 4 things at the same time. And since then, I've only ever concentrated on one thing. For example, I'm sitting here talking to you now, I'm not eating a kebab and talking to you. That'd be 2 things. I was riding a bike, eating a kebab and talking to you, that would be 3 things. And the Maudsley would be a short step away, you know. So let's just concentrate on one thing, and basically show business is just a job. It's a great job if it works and it's successful and people like you and you get lots of money, and that's fine, it's great, but that's all it is. Once you finish the job, you go home and the job's over. And I think that's what I learned, really, rather than taking the job home with me, you know.
And carrying that further then, I mean, what then are the ambitions now for you? Because, I mean, have I got news for you? In that sense, you've cracked that, because you made that spot very much your own. When you disappeared for a series, I mean, they were bereft.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
I wouldn't have left it if that wouldn't have happened.
That's right, because that's a good career move.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, what's the ultimate? I mean, what do you really want?
I don't know. Well, first of all, the thing is to keep working and enjoy what you're doing and stuff. I've got a chance, hopefully it's going to come off this year, of directing a short film, a 10-minute film, which I've written, or it's already in script form there. It's a comedy film. If that works, that'd be great. Ideally, I'd love to make one great comedy film. That would be wonderful. A film of the stature of Spinal Tap, or a Marx Brothers film, or, I mean, you know, this is talking high ambition, but yes, something that would be making people laugh 20 years after I was dead.
Am I allowed to know what the film's about?
You are allowed, yes. Would you like to know?
Please.
It's called The Suicidal Dog. That's the laugh I'm hoping for in the cinema. I can't tell you any more than that, because otherwise somebody else will go and make it before me.
I just wondered if it might be a part for one of our guests in it at all.
I've already asked Sir Anthony Hopkins, but he doesn't do dogs very well.
Stick around, sir. A couple of more good guests coming on. Paul Merton, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, my next guest started his creative life writing jingles for burgers, face cream and toilet cleaners. Today he's one of the greats of modern popular music, with worldwide record sales totaling more than 60 million. It's been said that his concerts offer more emotional counselling than an entire victim support group. He himself once compared his music to anchovies. He said, some people love them, some people get nauseous. Ladies and gentlemen, Barry Manilow.
You get a nice crowd.
That's what they call a rapturous reception. Over here touring. One of your favourite places to tour?
One of my favorite places to tour.
Why is that?
Well, because of what you just said.
Take them
because
around.
of this fantastic bunch of people who seem to keep supporting my musical life for years and years and years. I told you that this afternoon. When they like you here, they stay with you. I'm so grateful for you guys.
What's interesting is that the last time we met was sort of late 1970s, I suppose, when you first came on the show.
We were both very young.
Well, we were different. Well, I mean, I was interested.
You still look great, though.
Now, this flattery, this, please.
I haven't seen you in so long. Congratulations.
It took a while.
Yeah.
15 years, it only seems like yesterday, you lied.
It does, no, it does.
But listen, let's get the point. Let's cut to the chase.
Yes.
That since then, I mean, I knowing that I was meeting you, started reading up about you, and read your autobiography, which you wrote about 10 years ago, I suppose now, where you talk about that period, and you actually described yourself there as a brat. And I remember you
Was I a brat?
As a brat.
I was just trying to do the best job I knew how to do, and I guess I just wasn't being very elegant about it.
Yes.
Because I guess I was just being like a, a pushy New York guy saying, give me my way. But I really was just trying to, do the best job I could. It was so important to me.
But then what sort of things did you used to do in behaving like
Well,
a
I really
brat?
don't remember. I mean, it didn't seem like I was a brat. It seemed,
Well,
like all I really wanted to do was to have the most perfect lighting and the perfect sound and have the girls look great and have the sound look great. And that's all I really cared about. And I must have just done it not very pleasantly, I guess.
But you used to insist that restaurants were cleared.
No, I never did that. When did that ever happen?
It's in your book.
No. Well, did I say that?
You did.
Maybe I did.
But we're all allowed to forget.
Well, that part of your life, when this fame is thrust on you, no matter how many times you fantasize about what it might be like. And I never even did that. If you read the book, then you know that I never even thought about becoming a performer.
Absolutely.
So I was kind of thrown into this with Mandy going #1, and no one taught me how to behave. And I just listened to everybody around me, clearing restaurants or being a brat, But I must say, I didn't stay there for too long. But other people that start off like that get thrown. It's a hurricane. This success is like a hurricane, and it blows you off your feet. And if you're not careful about it, you become crazy.
Yes.
Drugs, alcohol, everything. I became a brat.
What changed you? What decided? What was that moment when you said?
I looked around one afternoon, and I realized that my old friends really weren't around me.
Really?
Really, I had just a few left, and what I had around me was a lot of people that I paid, and it just suddenly I realized, wait a minute, in just 3 years this happened. Where'd everybody go? So I realized that it was me. It wasn't them.
It's a very profound sort of thing to do, in a sense. It takes a lot of nerve to do it as well, because, all right, so other people might believe you, but you're still a huge success. You're still selling all your records. You're still musically okay.
It doesn't feel as good. Just that stuff doesn't do it.
You said something interesting there, of course. Again, unlike Paul there, who knew what he wanted to be from the very beginning, of course, as you said, you had no ambition to be, you had a musical ambition, but not to be what you became.
All I wanted to do was be a musician. That was really, I just wanted to be one of the guys in the band there. That's really all I asked for. And then I got these great opportunities to arrange and to produce, and I worked with Bette Midler, and I got a chance to. The forum became even bigger for me, and that would have been great. I would have just gone on from Bette to the next great singer, to the next great production. The performing and singing part was just this huge surprise. My friend Bruce is in the audience. Bruce Sussman, who wrote Copacabana with me. When I told him that I got a record contract, he said, "Doing what?" Because he was with me way back then. I mean, really, it was such an amazing circumstance.
Talking about Divine, Miss M, who had a profound effect upon your career. I mean, you knew her the two of you knew absolutely nothing at all.
Yeah.
Was she as outrageous at the very beginning? Was she?
Maybe even more so than now.
Oh, it's impossible, isn't it?
No, it's possible, because now everybody's sort of outrageous. Nobody was doing that then. But they didn't know what to do with Bette. I mean, she was this outrageous girl, singer. They didn't know whether to put her in legit theaters or in nightclubs, or she hadn't even had a record out yet. And at one place we played was a little theater in a shopping mall in Paramus, New Jersey. And we had to play a matinee. Can you imagine Bette playing a matinee? You know the kind of people that come to a matinee. I mean, I'm sure they're very nice, but I mean, they weren't ready for Bette. And there was a lot of old ladies with shopping bags. And then there was this troop of Girl Scouts that were sitting down front in their little Girl Scout uniforms, And Bette came out, no bra on, and, just wild, this wild woman, and they were just. And she did, we were cutting songs like crazy, cut this one, cut that one, And she was trying Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, and nothing worked. And she finally got to the end of the show, and she had only done like a half hour. She was ready to go, and there was this one little Girl Scout sitting down front like this. And Bette said, "Don't slouch, honey, your tits will sag." Out she went. Our girl Bette.
Well, she's had a remarkable career since as well, hasn't she? I mean, it's extraordinary.
She should be the top of the pyramid.
No, one other thing that interested me from your past as well, which I didn't understand till I again read that book, was this very strange relationship you had with your father.
Is it strange?
Well, it's strange in the sense that your parents were divorced when you were
I was an infant,
a baby,
yeah.
And then you've only ever seen him since twice.
Look how you just did your homework there. Yes, I saw him twice. Once when I was 11 years old, when he showed up outside the apartment, and he gave me a tape recorder. That was a nice thing to do. And then he fled because he was afraid they would all come running out and beating him up.
The family, because the family didn't
frying
like
pans and get out of his life. And then he showed up backstage one night at a concert. Oh, early when I was just starting off, and he showed up while I was changing. He just poked his head backstage and said hi, and I knew it was him as soon as I saw his face, because I'd seen pictures, even though there weren't very many of them. But he said, "I'm your father," and I said, "I know." And I had my pants down around my ankles. Talk about being caught with your pants down, right? And he said, "I just wanted to see what you did." He said, "You did real good. I'm real proud of you." And he said, "See you." And I scrambled to put my pants back on. I ran out into the hall, and he was gone. And that was the last time I ever saw him.
It was an extraordinary...
Sent me right to therapy. Now, well,
this is something else again in common.
Perhaps you were lucky you didn't ask for the tape recorder back.
That's a cruel joke, Merton, isn't it?
That's him, isn't he?
That's him.
He is so talented. I was telling him backstage, isn't he? He is so talented.
Because you get Whose Line Is It Anyway in America.
I do. I was telling Paul, when he starts to do this thing, when they start to do this improvising thing, my heart starts to, I don't know how you do that. I just don't know how you do that. But then you said that just think of it like jazz improvisation. And
it's like a verbal jazz in a sense.
Right.
If we have a conversation, we don't worry about the next thing we're going to say. So it's kind of that plus jokes.
Right, then I get it. Then I don't.
All right, now let's talk a bit more about defining moments in your career, because one of them was a concert that you did at Red Rocks with the Divine Miss M, wasn't it? Where you actually, that was the moment when you decided, yeah, I can actually make it as a singer.
Well, it was the moment that I stopped trying to please everybody. Well, that was it.
Really?
I'm sure there's a lot of people nodding out there. We all go through that. I was right there. I was trying to please everybody until I got to there's a place called the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Denver, and it's in the middle of the Red Rocks, and they've formed a beautiful amphitheater, and the backdrop is just these unbelievable red mountains, and I just was so moved. I come from Brooklyn, New York. I don't know from this kind of thing. It was the first time I couldn't believe the sky and the mountains, and Bet was doing her thing, and I just decided that night I would try Could It Be Magic, the song that I wrote based on the Chopin Prelude. The band knew it, and I tried it, and I was nervous all that afternoon because I figured that Bet's audience wouldn't like that kind of music, so I had been doing, up-tempo stuff. But this night I did it for me. I did it for me. I did it for the sky. I did it, just because I had to do it. And I finished it, and I got this really strange ovation. And I looked out, and people were standing up. It was my first standing ovation, so I figured, oh, well, maybe I'm onto something here.
We're going to hear you do that in just a moment. But going back to the extraordinary reception you had when you came here, you've got this huge sort of body of fans. I mean, how can you define your fans? I mean, Tom Jones's fans throw their knickers at him, and my fans throw their hairnets at me. But I mean, have you got a mental picture? Is there a?
I've always maintained that I always think I can have a great conversation with any of them. Ever since the beginning of my career, and it's true. Once they get over the shock of actually seeing me, I usually have decent conversations with just about everybody that talks to me. And these days, it's even more beautiful because they thank me for all of the years of work, and it makes me know that somebody's been listening all these years. They've gotten them through bad times and divorces and the romances and stuff. And so I think they're great. They're just great people. But I've always thought they were.
Do you get much?
You see what I'm saying?
Do you get much trouble with fans?
No, this woman here who said we love you, Barry, she was a fan of mine about a week ago.
Well, you're over here touring, and you're... What about me?
Everybody loves him.
Touring. And a tour, in fact, with a wonderful sort of, not so much a gimmick, I suppose, but a way of doing it, which is that the audience can choose the numbers.
Yes, I've been doing it in the States, and it's
Nice
it's really fun. Just like you told me that every show is different for you because you improvise. I've sort of kind of got that kind of thing going this year because on a wheel, on a computerized wheel, all my albums go flying by in the audience. I give a clicker to various audience members, and we chat for a little while, and then when they click the clicker, the wheel stops on any album. I've made 29 albums over the last 4 years. And, right. And so we know what songs we're going to do on whatever album, but we never know which album is going to come up.
Sure.
And so every show is different, and we get to do other songs every night.
Okay, but now, right now, you're going to do It Could Be Magic for us.
I'm going to do Could It Be Magic, the song that take that.
Stop screaming, woman.
You mentioned Take That. But now they're not together anymore. Now
they've long gone.
Take this and that.
I wouldn't make you do them in 15 years' time.
But anyway,
we only have durable people on this show. People will last the course.
Oh, no, they're pretty good. Some of these guys are good. Anyway, they did a nice version of a dance version of this song. So I'm going to do how it really was when I wrote it, which I based on a Chopin prelude. Now shut up.
Mr. Manilow,
Thank you very much. No band, just me. All right.
Spirit move me every time I'm near you, whirling like a cyclone in my mind. Sweet Melissa, angel of my lifetime, answer to all answers I can find. Baby, I love you, come into my arms. Let me know the wonder of all of you. And baby, I want you now, and hold on fast. Could this be the magic at last? Lady, take me high upon a hillside, high up where the stallions meet the sun. I could love you, build my world around you, never leave you till my life is done. Baby, I love you, come into my arms. Let me know the wonder of all of you. And baby, I want you now, and hold on fast. Could this be the magic at last?
take that, piano, and that. Now, when it comes to describing the appeal of our final guest, his friend and colleague, Sir Richard Attenborough, got it dead right. He said, and I quote, "He has what all the great figures in the movies have, James Cagney, Spencer Tracy. However gentle and comforting they are, you feel there's a bomb waiting to explode." Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Anthony Hopkins. Well, it's jolly good to see you again.
Thank you, it's good to be here.
And I was thinking again, like with Barry, the last time that I talked to you, you were about to go to America to embark on a new career in movies.
Yeah.
And since then, it could be said the lad did all right because you've got 2 Oscars and a knighthood.
Yeah, I won Oscar. I have nominated a few times. One Oscar,
right.
Yes. Okay. I didn't want to come on, actually. I was so fascinated watching these two.
All right, do you want to go back and see?
It's fascinating because what you're saying about you know how you were matures and mellows out as the years go by. It's just terrific. It's a wonderful interview.
Well, that happened to you.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I mean,
but I'm getting older and I feel much more mellow.
But I mean, I was always thinking that when I did that interview with you, that in fact, when I did the interview, I thought I've done this interview before, but the name of the man was Richard Burton.
Oh, yes.
But with Burton, I mean, he went over the edge and you didn't. You pulled back. It was the same interview in a sense, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Oh, you mean when Richard? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was look. It's the boy from Wales.
We came from the same town.
The same town.
Yes.
You know, they conquer the stage.
Yeah.
Go to Hollywood. Accusations of selling out and all that sort of thing. The booze.
Yeah.
But he went on the booze, and you didn't. You pulled back.
Well, I just thought it'd be smarter not to do that. So I had some fun with it, but it finally burned me out, so I stopped.
Let's talk about now. Let's talk about America now, because you're settled there now, and the films are kind of queuing up. You've got, I think, 3 waiting for release at present.
That's right. I've got Zorro, Mask of Zorro, in which I actually play Zorro, believe it or not, with Antonio Banderas, and meet Joe Black with Brad Pitt, and what else? Amistad. With Steven Spielberg, and The Edge, which comes out soon. Four. Something like that. Then I got one coming up in January, so I start next week in fact.
And I mean, do you get time to see these movies ever?
Yes, I get a look at them, and one viewing is enough, and cancel and move on. You know?
Is it? Would it be wrong in thinking that for all you've been an actor all your life, that if it wasn't for movies, you wouldn't be an actor?
I think so. I was brought up, I was raised on you know, the movies during the war years. My parents used to take me to the Plaza Cinema in Port Talbot, or the Odeon, or wherever. We had 5 cinemas in a relatively small town. And I used to go and see all the Humphrey Bogart, James Cagney movies. And that's where lots of kids of my generation got their entertainment. And eventually, because I had nothing better to do, I became an actor because I was so stupid at school. And I was a slow student, you know. And my father suggested I join the YMCA, and that's where I started. Port Talbot, 1955. I wanted instant stardom, but it took a long time. I simply wanted to... I remember meeting Richard Burton, and he signed an autograph for me. And I was so impressed because he was home from Hollywood with his wife, not Elizabeth Taylor, his first wife. And I remember him signing the autograph. And he was on his way to Cardiff Arms Park to see the big international between England and Wales. Anyway, I was walking down the street afterwards, clutching my autograph. And he passed in the car, and Sybil waved to me, you know, his wife. And I remember thinking that moment, I thought, I've got to get out of here. I don't mean out of Wales, but I thought, I've got to get out of my own situation. I want to become famous. And I did. That's what I wanted to become. And that was a long time ago. I was about 15 at the time. And through some strange destiny, it's all luck, some strange quirk of destiny, I found myself moving towards the acting business. I went into the theatre. I was very lucky, tremendously lucky, most fortunate. I've been very blessed. I worked with great people like Laurence Olivier at the National Theatre. Sure. But I really had my eye on the main chance. I really wanted to be in movies. I loved movies, and I love doing them now. I'm afraid I'm not very good in the theatre. I get very restless.
That's a nonsense.
Well, I just
Anybody who saw you do Lambert LaRue in France.
That was a lot of fun. But,
fun.
Yes.
That's one thing Lambert LaRue wasn't, was fun.
Yeah, but it was a little, I got restless. Maybe I'll go back to the theatre one day, I don't know. But I'm very fortunate. I'm enjoying my life now and doing what I do.
You said something very interesting once in an interview about your father. You said you were dangerous together.
My father and I, he was an amazing man, and he was a baker, and he was, I think, a frustrated actor, he was a great storyteller, like Paul, a wonderful improviser. He ended up running a pub, and people flocked from all over Wales to come and see him. He's known as Dick the Ship. And he told these stories, and we used to do a double act with Tommy Cooper together behind the bar. And he was an extraordinary man, and he was a very meat and potatoes man, very down to earth. And when I was working at the National Theatre, he said, "You don't want to hang around here, you want to make money like Richard Burton." I was doing a play at the National Theatre with Joan Plowright and Lawrence, and anyway, they were in the dressing room afterwards, and Lawrence Olivier knocked the door and came in, and my father went a very funny colour, and so did my mother. So I said, "This is Sir Laurence Olivier." He said, "Hello, Mr. Hopkins, how are you?" And my father said, "How old are you now, then?" He's built like a bull. He said, "How old are you?" And Laurence Olivier said, "I was born in 1907. Same age as me. Both going down the bloody hill now, aren't we?" I mean, I've had interviews in papers, and the people say, and I've been misquoted saying I had a miserable childhood. I didn't. I had an idyllic childhood. Yes. The only time was when I was in school. I was not very bright, and so I felt very lonely. That was the only time. But I had a wonderful childhood and great parents.
Do you think of your father often now?
All the time.
Yes.
And as I get older, he's becoming me. I'm him. Yeah. I remember I used to play the piano a lot. I was a little artistic, so I used to play Beethoven and all that stuff, Chopin and all that. And he was a baker, and he used to ask me to come and help him in the shop, carry the cakes into the shop during school holidays. Well, I'd sort of get distracted. And I remember sitting at the top of the house where this piano was, and I remember him coming up the stairs. He said, "For God's sake," he said, "I asked you to take those donuts into the shop. What the hell are you doing up here?" I was playing the piano. He said, "What's that you're playing?" I remember him standing in the doorway, and he had flour dust in his hair and his arms, really hard worker. He said, "What are you playing?" I said, "Beethoven." He said, "No wonder you went deaf." I'll never forget that, because it's come alive in me, because I'm afraid I don't have much time for the acting. I mean, I was yesterday, I was at an entertainment thing with, we were doing a Tommy Cooper evening, and light entertainment and all that, and I love comedians, and I love entertainers, and the acting profession gets a little bit stiff and starchy, and I think my father's coming alive in me now. I'm a bit irreverent about it.
Before we explore that, did you ever use your father in any part you played?
Oh, most of the time. Lambert LaRue.
Lambert LaRue? What the way he stood?
Well, my father's he wasn't aggressive.
You said he was a bullish.
Yes, a bullish man,
yeah,
and so was my grandfather. Basically on my grandfather, really, on my father's side of the family. But yes, I'm built like him. I act like him. I have the same. I saw a photograph of myself in a magazine recently. I thought it was my father. I think as we get older, we become closer to them. Yes. I remember reading about your father and your relationship.
Yes, I was very close to him. That's why
it's an amazing
story.
Right.
It's extraordinary. And again, like you, the older I get, the more I think about
yeah,
what you learn from them.
And I think we learn the best part from them.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. Let's talk about Tommy Cooper, because well, I mean, listen, I mean, it was my favourite, my all-time favourite.
Yeah.
Well, before we talk about it specifically, you said something interesting there, which other actors have said, which is that you admire comedians, and a lot of actors do. I mean, Trevor Howard, I remember once when Tommy Cooper was on the show, rang up and begged to be in the audience to watch him. And I said, why? He said, because he's a great actor, he said.
Yeah.
What is it, though?
Well, Paul, you're a great fan of Tommy Cooper.
Yes, indeed. He was wonderful.
I think he was an anarchist. He was a complete anarchist. I mean, I was watching a tape of him yesterday. I mean, I think he had the genius of recognizing his own body, those huge feet. He's about 6'5", wasn't he? And the awkwardness of him, and he was a very vulnerable fool. I mean, he was an idiot. I mean, he was a wonderful fool, like Eric Morecambe was, and I think Les Dawson was a wonderful fool, and all his tricks went wrong. I think they say he was just a hit-and-miss comedian. I think he was a brilliantly, technically accomplished comedian.
There is some story, I think, I don't know if it's true, and I heard this years ago, that he was playing Los Angeles or America, a Hilton Hotel somewhere, I think it was LA, and he was booked for 2 weeks. This would be sometime in the late 50s. And after a couple of evenings, the management called him in and said, look, we have to speak to you, Mr. Cooper. And he said, well, what's the matter? You know, and he said, we think you should rehearse more. because the same trick went wrong tonight as did last night.
Do you know whom we speak? No. No, he didn't cross the Atlantic to except in his dreams.
Very British humour.
He was very British humour. He was a great drawl, a great comedian. You went. What was this? You were at this. What were you doing? Was it Tommy Cooper impressions?
My wife I wouldn't do any Tommy Cooper.
Come on. Nonsense.
I was hosting this show last night. It was and Sting was there and a whole bunch of people and Warren Mitchell. Anyway. So I was asked to host the evening, and Ned Sherrin introduced me, and so I had to get up with the fez and sort of like that, yeah. So I thought, well, I said, I feel very silly up here. I'm supposed to be a serious actor. So I stood there like that. I went to the butcher. I said, what do you want? I said, lean back. Are you there? I backed a horse yesterday, 20 to 1. I came in 20 past 4. I came in so late, and then I tiptoed back to the stable. I went to the doctor. He said, what's the matter? I said, I'm not feeling good. He said, get up on the table. I said, what for? He said, I want to sweep up. So he examined me all over. He said, like that. Examined me all over. And when I came out of the changing room, he was looking very sad. I said, give me the worst. He said, well, let's put it like this. Don't put on any long-playing records. My wife was with me. There's an actor I'd like to play, an actor friend of mine, I haven't seen him for years, is Mike Gambon. He reminds me of
Michael Gambon.
A great actor.
Yes.
And I think he's
Sir Michael
Gambon.
Indeed.
I think he's that kind of an anarchist that makes him a great actor.
Yes, yes, and he's got a great physical resemblance. He could play Tommy Cooper, couldn't he?
He could, and I think it's his great genius is his anarchy of stage and actor.
Yeah. Let's say in the final moment we've got now, just a couple of things. America, you're enjoying.
I love it. I've got a house there in California, but I also live here.
But you also, I read, is a way of relaxing there. You just take off and just drive around the country.
Thousands of miles.
Do you?
Drive, so wherever my instinct takes me, I'll make one direction and I end up in Texas and not really. I have a map with me, but sometimes I'll change. I think I'll go right and I end up in Texas. I was down in Texas last year and it was so flat. I thought this is very boring. So I turned left and went up to Washington. And I have a wonderful time. I'm actually going into a hotel in El Paso. It was a holiday, and it was under a freeway, just on the very gloomy, miserable night it was. It was raining. And I went to this hotel. I needed accommodation. I walked in, and it was very gloomy. And I walked in, and there was this woman behind the desk, and she had a scarf with curls and, grips. And I said, could I have a room? She said, oh, my God. Hannibal Lecter. So I had a lot of fun meeting a lot of people. It's a way of relaxing. So I'm bitter on the neck. I can play a dog in the film.
All right, you're on.
Doberman.
I was going to ask if you get a part in. Final question to all three, because what's been fascinating talking to all three tonight is that all three of you came from the same kind of background, and where you weren't allowed to be what you are in a sense, and you dreamed and you became what you are, and you succeeded. Do you think that it's all been, is it a dream? Are they going to tap you on the shoulder, Paul Merton, one day and say, your time's up, Merton, actually?
No, I don't feel that. I think some people do. I think that's quite a common thing with people in show business, but no, it was a long, slow climb, and I hope it to be a long, slow descent.
Barry, what about you?
Ditto.
Same as?
Same thing. If it went someplace, I would look back and say, what a great ride that's been.
Sir Anthony?
Yeah, I've had a wonderful life, and I hope it goes on. I'm very fortunate, very lucky. I sometimes pinch myself and think, how did it happen? But I think, well, that's the way it is. It's opportunity, luck, and goodness knows what it is. Maybe a little bit of talent. But I've had such a wonderful life, and what I'm enjoying now is just getting older. That's what I'm really enjoying. I just passed my 60th birthday, yeah. I just feel everything's mellowed out a bit. I'm not that concerned about things anymore. I'm just having a good time. And
isn't it nice to tell people to
It is.
Go away if you don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something vulgar, but I wouldn't. And choose your friends.
Yeah.
And do what you want to do.
Exactly. I had a party the other night. It was the 60th birthday party, and a lot of friends I hadn't seen for many years came by, actors, and it was wonderful to see that we're all getting older, and we've all mellowed a bit more, and there's not all that competition and striving and all that, which is great.
All that testosterone.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank all of you, too, for coming on the show, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice show. My thanks then to Sir Anthony Hopkins, to Barry Manilow and to Paul Merton. Next week, my guests are Stephen Tompkinson, Michael Palin and Sir Elton John. Until then, from all of us here, very good night. Good night.
There's more chat and music in Parkinson's Sunday Supplement on BBC Radio 2, Sunday morning from 11.
Saturday night on BBC1. There's no stopping Jim at 6.
Don't time fly when you're having fun.
At 7, Noel celebrates great gotchas.
I hope you are proud of your
I loved
gotcha.
every minute of it. Then Dame Edna Everage presents the National Lottery Draw with special guest Barry Manilow at 8:15.
Sorry we're late.
Open hearts in Casualty.
I want you to trust me.
What's wrong with people knowing about us?
It's academic now, isn't it? It's done.
Then Leslie Nielsen takes charge
I'm Lieutenant Frank Drebin, Police Squad.
with Priscilla Presley in The Naked Gun at 9:05.
It's quite a tempting offer, Lieutenant.
That's Saturday night on BBC1.
People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
The defences are raised.
This wall was part of our national heritage.
And the battle lines are drawn.
He has, I think, tried to bully the village.
Within these little villages, these little Hitlers still exist.
So prepare to do battle.
It is just a time bomb, isn't it?
Are we over the top? Is this a mess?
Neighbours at War, Monday at 9:30 on BBC1.
Places in the semis at stake. BBC 2's on the mark at the World Darts in just over 5 minutes. Here on BBC 1 at 1:10, a Gothic story of faith and misunderstanding in America's Bible Belt. Film drama in Wise Blood. Stateside now on BBC 1. Did the Earth move for you?